Thank you for considering this important legislation. I stand fully in support of pre-K expansion. I would hope that that would be done through the Senate bill, which does not entangle the importance of pre-K expansion for low-income children with the difficulties involved in also attempting to further expand the K-12 public school funding of private schools with limited accountability to taxpayers. I do not think that private schools are harmful to our state. In fact, I think they're helpful. But I do believe that the public funding with state taxpayer monies intended for public education is harming our children and it's harming our communities. In particular, the inner city community in which I live on the edge of. I live just north of Broad Ripple. Even more so, I fear that it will harm my home community, where the 712 high school has a total of around 400 students and remains an excellent school that your Department of Education and your A to F grading have found to be quite successful. I don't believe that it would survive if this continues, and I think it wouldn't survive more than 5 years at this point. Let me cut quickly to providing you some new information. I am a parent. My daughter will be an incoming freshman at North Central High School this fall, and she is incredibly excited. She is a student who will need help in order to be successful there. I've toured the Learning Center there, and that will be the key to her success and her ability to take honors classes and regular classes rather than not being able to with some needs that she has. I'm also a lawyer. I am not paid to be here. When I graduated from IU Bloomington in 1991, I did a law journal article that I thought would never be useful, but today it is, because it's called An Audience for the Amish, a communications-based approach to the development of law, and if you can believe I can still remember that name now. And I looked at Amish law at Goshen College. It was a lot of fun to do. It gets cited occasionally because no one writes about Amish law. But in particular, it talked about the Amish law, which is really just the Ordnungen code that they've developed, has both an internal audience and an external audience. They have to speak to the Amish people and help them to comply with it and help to keep them happy, but they also have always had to speak to the outside world and kind of try to make them stay happy with Amish people. I'm realizing with this bill, the same thing may be going on. Yesterday, when I saw the Indianapolis Star article about this, it was titled, Lawmakers Weigh Option to Expand Pre-K. And it talked at length about the Senate and the House bills, but there was never a mention about K-12 vouchers. And then I did more searching and I found an article in today's Catholic News. It was on the 24th of January, and it is titled, Pre-K Bill Would Expand School Choice Access. And in the first sentence, it talked about K-12 voucher expansion. And in fact, much of the article was really focused on K-12 voucher expansion. We have two different audiences. We have an internal audience in today's Catholic News, which could be published, I'm not picking on Catholics. It could be published in the Lutherans. It could be published in certain Christian denominations. It could be published in a few private school independent settings. But that's what that audience wants to know about, as I can understand, because more and more those schools are becoming dependent upon state money. As a Presbyterian myself, and with my religion being important to me, I have a real fear that at some point our religious schools actually will cease to exist because they will have become so dependent upon state money that if at some point a legislature decides to abandon that program, we will have massive private school closures. And those communities left in a similar disarray that our urban and rural communities are being threatened with right now. So what I would ask you to do is please continue on this bill or switch to the Senate bill more preferably. But in any instance, please strike sections 20 and 21, the 4 pages about K-12 vouchers, and change the language back in section 17 that is also needed to do this. And thank you so much for your time and attention to this. It's so important to our kids.
Thank you, Ms. Ruegger. Are there any further questions? Thank you much.